Hi everyone, thank you for coming back on the Green Life. Today is 100th episode. I am extremely excited. It's a milestone. Definitely can't believe that since I started in March 2022, this has gone, 100 episodes. I have interviewed so many wonderful experts and doctors and healers, and the Green Life keeps on evolving and growing as I am. And in a way, it's because I started the Green Life as a reflection of my own healing journey. I needed something to create community, focus on, share, and just increase the wisdom that sometimes we can really lose in a very loud world of different information. And sometimes there's a major disconnect between science, spirituality, being a human. Our human experience is so important, and at times we just forget how to be human, how to get in touch with the higher self that guides us. And to me, one of the major contributors to a healthy human being is actually aligning values when we learn about more and more options to our life, right? So the value of not killing, you wouldn't go out and kill someone. I mean, there are people that do, but I'm sure you guys don't. And we don't extend that kindness and that awareness to animals. But if we have the option not to contribute to death at all of any species, should we take that path? And I really believe that for our spiritual ascension, that is something that definitely aligns, right? I believe that God is a God of life, and given that is a God of life, why are we eating death? And I know this is not a popular thought or very popular approach if you're not vegan, because I know we've been taught that this is just a normal cycle, right? I grew up with grandparents, especially because they were the one. My grandmother was the one feeding us most, who said that if I didn't eat animal products, if I didn't eat meat, I would be iron deficient and I'd be getting sick, and I needed to eat certain things. She was feeding me even sometimes things like liver, which is gross. But, I ate it. I grew up eating animal products. I grew up eating like, dairy, which I was allergic to. I was sensitive to. My gut was a mess. And I grew up eating these things, and I never for 1 second really questioned. And I loved animals, but still, I never for 1 second questioned where my food was coming from. And until I did, and that was in 2013, then of course my eyes opened, and it was a shock to the system to actually realize that I lived my whole life thinking that I was loving animals, but then eating them. Yes, being on a vegan diet can be unhealthy if you don't do it right. I am testament of that because when I started the Green Life, one of the reasons I started this podcast is because I was reversing type 2 diabetes. In 2016, some events happened where basically I went through an emotional roller coaster, and I didn't realize until 2019 how much I hadn't really dealt with so many emotions. And through a series of events, again, moving to Portugal, managing a project that was very exhausting, I hit a wall, a very hard wall. I found myself with adrenal fatigue, like severe. I would get up in the morning exhausted. I would be triggered by anything and everything. I was just not in a good place. equally, I started not caring about what I was eating because I was just so stressed, and I had a lot of people staying with me, and I was just like, convenience is king, and I was eating a lot of processed vegan food. So I didn't leave the vegan behind, but I definitely left the whole food behind. And I was eating mostly pasta and bread. And sure, I thought I was healthy because I still had my vegetables. But my approach was very much of going for these very, easy foods that perhaps my body wasn't actually aligning to anymore. I was changing, my hormones were changing too. I was stressed, so my adrenaline was really high, my cortisol was always high. I just wasn't in a good place, and that really created havoc in my body. And as my whole system started shutting down and not performing, I realized that, well, I wasn't doing myself any service or any good by, you know, not looking after myself and not making good choices. But it took me a while. It took me a while because I just was in a really bad place emotionally where I didn't really understand what was going on. And the dark night of the soul hit me in the face. And I never faced something like that before to that extent. I went through healing cycles in my life, which in a way they prepare you for being open minded and changing. But something like that, something like the dark night of the soul, is very intense. I was on a podcast where I actually talked about Dark Night of the Soul. I will list it below so you can listen to it. But it is you staring at you, and you have a choice to make. Look at yourself and make changes, and acknowledge what is actually going on that needs addressing, or you can avoid it, become completely avoidant of it, of your progress, of your healing, and shut down. So that was something really interesting for me to face because I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't have the support system for it. In fact, I actually realized that I never had a support system. I and I know that this is sounding harsh because people in my life want to be supportive. They're not bad people. They just don't know how. They don't have the tools because being supportive to others is not something you naturally do. We can naturally be empathic, but because of our trauma, because of how we show up, we can't always understand how to be supportive. So someone that thinks that they just want to be there helping you all the time and fixing things that are wrong for you, fixing them for you, that they're helping, but actually that's not really helpful. And you have to, the best help is to give people the tools and allow them to use them, which is why I love coaching. And I always tell my clients, I am your co-pilot. I'm going to show the map to you, but you have to drive this car because I can't do it for you. This is work that is way beyond our 2 hours together, our hour together. This is work you have to do every single day. This is the thing about healing. We have to do it every single day. And one of the biggest things about the healing journeys that we are on is forgiveness. And I shared in my previous podcast on my own where that I wasn't talking to my mother, that I had disconnected from her because I had learned that there was a lot of trauma to do with her. And I was very angry at not having felt like I had I didn't have a mom. I didn't have a mom growing up. I didn't have a mother that was motherly growing up. And it made me angry at the beginning because I felt abandoned and I felt like I was put in a position where I had responsibilities which they were not mine. You can't put a child, 'cause for me it started in childhood, in that position. You can't force a child to grow up so quickly and then not give them also the support and the tools when they are grown up, and then now they find themselves so skewed in the way that they see the world. It's unfair. And I really think it comes down to the fact that parents are not coached to be parents, and that's something that parents really need to learn and do, because just giving birth to a baby doesn't make you a good parent. And I'm sorry to say this, a lot of women will get upset with me, But I'm not saying this because I don't love you, women. I love you. You know, I do work to empower us. And men, of course, because dads are just as important. But point is, just making a baby doesn't make us good parents. Parenthood is really a skill, understanding another human being, and it requires support. And again, parents never had support. Now it's something that is starting to see, to have, to acknowledge, to find online. Is, you know, our internet is a lot of things that are negative, of course, but there are a lot of things that are really good. Like, we can actually have conversations like this on my podcast, on other podcasts, about parenting, about how to be good, you know, guides for our children, for our youth, for ourselves. Like, we can learn so much more than our even people that are 10 years younger than us, older than us, pardon me, could at the time. So when I say older than us, I mean me. So I'm in my 40s. So even people in their 50s, they didn't have access to what we have access to as early as we did. So you know, it makes a difference. Like, 10 years makes a difference, 20 years makes a difference. And you can see that with our current generation, the teenagers now, they grow up online. The problem is the the exposure to what content, the content they have exposure to can be a little bit not conducive to well-being. And that is the sad part. And so the conversation we're having now are very targeted to people that are looking for the healing. But unfortunately, our youth are not necessarily there because, again, if the parents are not trained to be parents, to know about these subjects, to steer them towards this kind of content, they end up watching a lot of crap online and, you know, feeding their brain a very, very limited and poisonous, toxic content that will shape them into what they're going to become. So it's very, very important to, as a parent, know what you have to do, to the best of your ability and to the knowledge at the time. And this is something that should be for all parents. There should be coaching and there should be support for all parents to do that. So my parents didn't have that, right? And I recognized that, and I started forgiving a lot, and I started speaking to my mom again last year, well, this year, but last year she started getting in touch because she was doing a lot of work on herself. And I actually realized, and I saw such a difference. She started doing a lot of self healing with the food, especially. And I had noticed how she was actually improving even cognitively, like she was clearer in her thoughts. And I felt that it was really good for her. She was taking responsibility of her body and asking questions. And she did the cleanse with the herbs by Dr. Morse. And we started talking again, and we both said sorry for our behavior and what we said because it was very hurtful back in 2021. I apologized, she apologized. And now we kind of talking a little bit more. And I know that I have to keep my boundaries because it's just the healthiest way, because it's very easy to go back into loops, especially when you've been dealing with each other in a certain way for 40 years, right? So it is very important to keep those boundaries, and it really is up to me to do that because I'm the one that has been creating boundaries, studying them, so that I can preserve my mental health, my spiritual health, my feelings, my heart. You know, we never really talk about heart, but like, people always think about heartache and heartbreaks when we talk about romantic relationships, but any relationship can cause us heartache, and families are not different. So I have to keep those boundaries. And, you know, my mother joined the inner circle, which I'm very proud of her for doing. But I also have seen a little bit of slippery slope back into old habits for her and with her food, and therefore affecting her behavior. And it's funny because, you know, I always talk about how important eating is so that we can adjust our behavior, because there is a massive relationship between our gut and our our brain. And we don't realize how deep that relationship goes and how important it is, because we just haven't really been, again, taught that our gut is actually our second brain. Like, we produce hormones in our guts. Our microbiome, the bacteria, the good bacteria in our gut, produce essential fatty acids. Those essential fatty acids heal the gut barrier. They allow pathways, hormonal pathways. We create serotonin in our gut because of our microbiome. So of course our mental health and the way that we have neuroplasticity happen does depend a lot on how healthy our guts are. It really is an empowering subject when we learn about it, because we get to see how strong we can be, but also how much power we have over our body, and not over our body, but with our body, and how we have to take responsibility for our health. I mean, I learned that the hard way. Giving myself type 2 diabetes was a wake up call. The first thing I realized when I went for my blood work for not feeling well, I was like, I can make myself healthy or I can make myself sick. How incredible is that? Like, you go to a doctor and they make it sound like you have no say in your health journey, but actually you have. And although there's some ailments which are out of our control, most of them really are in our control. Our mindset, our choices every day, lifestyle. It is amazing. So it's something that I really, really wanted to bring forth in this 100th episode, because again, I feel like we have to tap into these conversations, like taking responsibility, forgiveness, and acceptance, right? Like, to heal, we have to accept that something is out of our control. Some things are out of our control. And we can't control everything. We can't fix everything. We just have to learn how to react or act upon things that are happening, rather than reacting instinctively out of panic, which I realized I am very prone to doing. I am a mix of an avoidant and an anxious person when it comes to attachments. Avoidant because sometimes I just want to escape. I don't want to talk about the feelings. I just want to escape them, or I want to not think about too much what's going on because it scares me and it hurts me. And then anxious because, well, I had abandonment issues. Like, my parents, they didn't like just leave me somewhere and left, but they were not present, and it didn't feel like I had a constant at home, and that's abandonment. And I tend to have anxious attachments because of that. Like, if somebody behaves in a certain way, doesn't text back, doesn't acknowledge me, I immediately think of the worst. I've realized that, and it's been a very big eye opener, because I really only thought that my biggest thing was actually to be avoidant only. It's easy for me to just shut down. I want to just shut down. I want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it, especially with the people close to me. I go inwards a lot in my feelings, in my thoughts. But actually, anxious attachment is real. And it is something really intense to navigate. And I am really determined to become a better version of myself that can handle it, and that can be not dealing with things in an anxious way, that can enjoy the moments with knowing that it's safe to be not acknowledged straight away, like having that power that I know that I have with my health, with my mental health. And so those things are things we have to really acknowledge, start tapping into. And we can go and see specialists, we can go and see experts, we can go and see doctors, like psychologists. And I'm not talking about diagnosed mental illness, by the way. For those, please go and see a professional. If there is a mental health issue, even if you want to work on yourself, please do, of course, but go seek help and guidance, because it's not as easy. And especially when we have biochemical imbalances, we have to acknowledge that we need extra support. And I am not someone that is, as you know, drug pushing, but I think we need to evaluate what every person's needs are when it comes to mental health. And instead of being judgmental and one way only, like, we have to not be extreme, because people have different needs. And of course, before you, and I know a lot of doctors and experts don't get this, and this is really, really, really like extremely sad. But there are a lot of doctors that are starting. Like I just joined the Self Healer Club by Dr. Nicola Pera, and I really just wanted to learn more about my issues with anxious attachment and with avoidance, and really balance out what are the tips that I can gain. And I was reading her book, Becoming the Love We Seek, and I think that's the title. And I just joined. There was a waiting list. I just managed to join yesterday. And I'm glad I did. I look forward to doing that extra self work, because as I progress in my healing and as I become more in tune with what I need to do to become better, I can also serve my clients. And this is the thing that I think we don't talk about it enough in the wellness space, is a lot of people want to, show up on social media as the experts and just saying what they've been through. And it's like, okay, now I've done this, now I've arrived. And the truth is, we're never done. We are never done with the healing, because trauma builds up through the ages. So if you are in your 40s, you have 40 years of plus of trauma and so on. And it is not something that just goes away when we just wish it to go away, or if we are just like, I'll get over it. I don't want to. This is something an avoidance we do, like, it's fine, I'll get over it. And then just avoid the feelings. But truthfully, you have to face the music as it comes. And also, we learn different things, and we learn more and more every single day. It's like, it's a way for our mind and our body to truly connect to what we need to establish, what we need to do to, find ourselves being connected to to how we feel, to our feelings deep rooted in our subconscious, and then bring them forward in our consciousness so that we can deal with them and we can appreciate what we're doing wrong and what we're doing right, and really work on ourselves. Those are things that, because it's very easy to sit there and scapegoat everyone else and scapegoat situations and blame and just be upset and angry. And that's not the way we're going to move forward in life. That's not the way we are creating shifts. That's not the way we're becoming better people. That's not the way we're showing up for others. In truth, we just have to being able to allow ourselves to be humble, knowing that as we serve others, we need to work on ourselves. That's the best way we can serve others, right? So, yeah, having that capability is really, really important. That takes courage, because who wants to sit down and say, oof, I need to work on this, I don't have it all together. But I was doing some exercises with some of my clients, and they were very practical exercises. And then when they left, I started doing them myself. And exercises, some of them I've done before and I repeated them. Some of them, they were new. I did it with them because they were new skills, and because I just intuitively felt that that was the right approach to doing things. And I realized how much stuff still is there for me, especially when it comes to my family, and how I don't feel supported, and how this is actually been reflecting in my personal life, in my marriage, and a lot of things. I also have been going through quite a lot of changes and a lot of sad times, like in my personal life. And I'm trying to really grieve things that need to be grieved without feeling sorry for myself, which is not always easy, because it's really easy to try and to kind of feel sorry for yourself and go in a dark hole. And I've been spending a lot of time nurturing myself by really going inwards, and sometimes it's not an easy place to be. And praying for guidance and getting it for sure. Praying for alignment, praying to be a better version of myself every single day, a version of myself that doesn't contradict herself. This is something sometimes can be really hard. Contradictions are natural because we all have a degree of dissonance. That's just unfortunately part of the human experience. And the healing part also comes from actually realizing that we have a little bit of dissonance and aligning that dissonance to reality. So just thinking something and then doing the opposite doesn't work. But if we align our actions and our thoughts, well, great, right? Those things are really key, I think, to finding healing, to growing, to to allowing ourselves to be who we need to be and want to be. So having that space for yourself is really important. It's also important to not do any blaming. It's really easy to sit there and blame ourselves if something hasn't gone right, to blame ourselves if we didn't show up in the way we wanted to show up, if we have perhaps messed up, right? It's really easy to blame the other person, the situation, become victims. I said that before and I'm going to say it again. And I say this every time I teach and I coach and I do lessons and I speak to even friends. Victimism is the most acidic thing you can do, both mentally and physically. And if we get into that trap of victimhood, we are going to never be able to take a step forward. Victimhood shows up in, oh, this happened because, I had a difficult childhood. Or, oh, that person is just hard, they don't get me. Or this and that. And although for some of these things, like the other, the people we have around, we need to have boundaries with, we need to create those boundaries. We have to have conversations with them. Communication is extremely important. You are responsible for you ultimately on how you want to react to things and what decisions you're going to make. And with every decision comes an outcome. So it's action and reaction is basically knowing that it's cause and effect. If you're making a decision, you have to consider what the outcome will be and be okay with it. It's not just, oh, it happened to me. It happened because I made this decision. What do I get out of this now? Do I want to learn a lesson or do I want to just keep on doing the same shit? And this is where it's really, really important. So being a victim of circumstances, of people, of ourselves is not an option if you want to heal. So if you are on this podcast, I hope that you are really tapping into all the things you have to do. Like we talked about, with Dr. Northrup, we talked about energy vampires and narcissists. We talked about with other doctors, we talked about different personality disorders, toxic families. And those things exist, but how do you show up for yourself so that you're not a victim to these things and you actually know how to navigate people, experiences, and feelings and become strong so that you know that whatever choice you're making every day comes out with an outcome that you have to deal with and that you have to take responsibility for and that you have to consider if it's good for you or not and make decisions accordingly. All these things matter. You have the power to make those choices. You're not a victim of them. For people that are, unfortunately, you're just not going to go anywhere. You're not going to take any steps forward. And unless you get out of that feeling and that state of mind of victimhood, nothing will change. And this is where, again, I'm going to ripple into another big conversations that I'm having a lot. It's manifestation. People think that they can sit on the couch and manifest things, whether that's money or situations or anything. And then they don't see that they have manifested the opposite because they're not taking any action. So when you want something, if you want to heal, you have to know what you have to heal You have to see it happening. You have to start making decisions and actions, have a feeling that that's the right thing to do, then take an action, and that's an inspired action, and then you will see the outcome. And if you're taking actions, the outcome will be there and something good will happen. If you're sitting on your ass just wishing for something, you'll be wishing for a long time, right? There are jokes about this. There is like a joke of someone praying to God and being like, God, why am I not winning the lottery? I just need that money from the lottery. And God got so fed up after a month pleading and is like, if you don't play, I can't make you win. There was no action, so that person didn't win. Same with the helicopter, right? Like the saving of the guy. Like this guy was drowning. Basically, there was a flood, and this person was like drowning, and someone sent a boat arrived, and he's like, no, 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 God will save me, don't worry. Then he goes on the roof because the water keeps on escalating and rising, and they send an helicopter, and he was like, come. And he's like, no, 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 God will save me. And then he died. And when he went to heaven, he was like, God, why didn't you save me? And it's like, I sent you a boat. I sent you an helicopter. You didn't take it. What do you want me to do? So you have to take action when you need something to happen. You can't just sit there and wait for it to happen or wish for it to happen or pray for it to happen. This is the truth. Like we limit ourselves when we don't take inspired action. So even manifestation is something that we need to reconsider. And it's such a beautiful thing to actually empower yourself with that, because manifestation is actually rooted in mindset and in psychology. It's about rewiring the brain as to what we think we're worth, what we think we want, how we get it, and not just be there and be victims of waiting and circumstances. So I think it's a beautiful skill to really, hone on and bring yourself in a position where, again, you're not a victim of circumstances, you are empowered by them. Don't sit there going like, when I have this, I will do this. When I have that, I will be this. That is very limiting and it doesn't serve you. And honestly, I feel that if you want something to happen, just take the steps now. Any step, even a small step, even if your circumstances fully are not changed yet, have not changed yet, take the steps towards that change. Take the step towards making it happen and then see what happens. Because every step you take will take you to the right direction. When I left JP Morgan, when I was a banker at JP Morgan, I really liked the work to a certain extent, and I was very good at maintaining boundaries. Like I wouldn't go out to the to the pub after work. I would actually go to the gym after work, so I would move my body. I would eat out at Pret a Manger. I was in London, or eat or whatever other fast food, which are not necessarily unhealthy, but it's different when you have your own food at home. I used to bring my own food, which meant I had to batch cook once a week and prepare everything for the week so that I'd be ready, so that I wouldn't eat the wrong things. I would save money in the process because, you can spend upwards of £200 a month just in takeaway food, and that's one meal a day, okay? And maybe a little bit more if you actually start adding coffees. And let's not even start about coffees because we had Starbucks everywhere. You're spending at least €3-4 on Starbucks. I mean, it becomes insane. So we want to make sure that we take action. So I was doing that. And when I had to leave JP Morgan, I didn't just leave JP Morgan once I graduated as a coach or yoga teacher. I actually slowly started working on weekends and evening whilst I was at JP Morgan, and actually seeing that, yes, I could do this, and that, yes, I need to invest more time in myself to do this, and slowly adapting to the fact that, okay, I will have less money coming in. Like right now I have a good salary. I'm financially independent. I have savings. And if I go and leave JP Morgan, some things will have to change. But because I did that exercise over time and I took the steps, I realized what I could and could not do, but also realized how many of the things that I thought I needed, I didn't. And then you just adapt. And then I left, and then things started to happen because I had taken the step to make it happen. Had I stayed at JP Morgan and maybe work on as a coach on the side, a yoga teacher on the side, I wouldn't have had the experiences that I had. I wouldn't have gone and work at Hardcore, which is a beautiful boutique studio in London, and managing the yoga there and creating the program and see it grow and be able to actually become a really good teacher and being able to have amazing full classes. My classes were packed. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't invested 100% of my energy and self into that. So, yeah, it was very empowering to do that, but I had to take steps. And if I had just sat on my desk wishing for things to happen, that would have never happened. When I wrote my first book, I was still at JP Morgan, and so weekends and evenings, that was my life, writing, and it happened. And I've noticed that I've been trying to finish my next book forever, and I'm struggling because I am not committing. I'm not taking the steps. And so I'm like, okay, every night I write a page now. Even if it takes me 2 years, every night I'm writing a page. And that means that by the end of 2 years, I would have written a page every day, and I would have had a lot of pages, and the book would be done. And it's okay because I can look back and know that I've taken steps and actions. And the outcome of that could be anything positive, because if I don't do anything about it, it's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, one of my bad characteristics, since always, is that I procrastinate until the end. Procrastination is actually due to trauma, by the way. Only realized and learned about this not long ago. And then the last minute when the deadline is close, I just go crazy and I don't sleep and I don't eat and I just do. And I burn myself out probably. And then it's done. But I could have saved myself a lot of stress if I had actually paced myself and do it properly, which is actually what I'm doing now. I'm very proud of myself. With the inner circle, as I prepare the lessons, I do them in advance. I record them in advance. They're ready. They're good to go. And I'm like, this feels so good. I don't have to stress and rush and go crazy. I mean, even then, last week I did the lesson. I had a week, and even that stressed me out. So for the next cycle, I will actually record everything properly before. So yeah, it's been really interesting. But this is what happened, and I think we need to, we can all learn from these things, and they're good and they're beautiful. And so I hope that this podcast really inspires you. And again, as you look at my journey, know that wherever you're starting from, if you take steps, if you really commit to your healing, you can do it. And as a result, you'll be a better version of yourself. If you have children, for your kids, that's massive, guys, massive. Our children are unfortunately exposed to so much negativity that if we do the work and we become better parents, and I'm not a parent, but I say us, especially women, as we are feeling more empowered, we are growing in ourselves, we're becoming much stronger, the versions of ourselves we need to be better mothers, but also not just to children, but to the planet. On an energetic level, the feminine is important, is growing. We need to nurture it, and as we do that, we have this beautiful ability to like really create a shift, and that shift is important because it allows us to really create magic. I keep on saying this. The women that I'm meeting are all going through massive changes, massive shifts, leaving behind a lot of toxic masculinity. And they want to be and do and just be more and show up more and create more. And that cannot happen if you're stuck in a box. So that's what I'm talking about. And so this work is important, and I know it's not easy. I know it's hard. I know that showing up every day for yourself and others is a lot of work. Trust me, I know. But it's worth it. It's worth it. You are worth it. People that you love and you want to support are worth it, especially the youth and your children, because you love them unconditionally and you want to make sure that you show up for them unconditionally. So guys, I really want to thank you again for supporting the podcast. I would love to ask you to please share the episodes, share the podcast on every platform you're on. Keep on helping me grow my YouTube channel so that I can share more, I can do more, I can be more visible. I have just joined TikTok. I'm awful on it, but I have joined, and I am going to be sharing much more practical tips as I've been doing on social media that I hope you will gain a lot of goodies from and inspiration from. And again, remind yourself that when we look for advice, we want to look for advice from people that are still doing the work and will always do the work and will be actually honest about it. There's no such a thing as a guru. Nobody sits there knowing it all, being fixed completely. If they claim that, I am sorry, but that's a lie, because if you really have to be honest with yourself as a human being, the journey is forever ongoing, and if you don't do the work, it's not going to happen. Nobody can do it for you. It's not a miracle. Even God, we cannot do it for you if you don't do the work. You can be led by spirit. You can be led in the right direction. You can be mindful. You can be heartful. You can be righteous. You can be a lot of things, and that's great to seek for this guidance, especially from our source, because we are part of source. We have that inside of us. We want to find it, but you have to do the work every single day. There's no bypassing. There's no spiritual bypassing. There's no bypassing by drugs. There is no bypassing. You got to do the work. So do it, because you will find yourself to be amazing, feeling great. And I am sure that one day I will get some of the feedback from the listeners who have done it, and I can't wait to share it and read it, because it's going to just be empowering for other people. When we know somebody has done it and it's possible, we feel good about it, right? We don't feel alone. And that's the feeling that a lot of people struggle with, that loneliness, feeling alone, which we can be even when we are surrounded by a lot of people. So guys, thank you so much. Again, if you want to support the channel, I've left some links in the show notes. I have some affiliate accounts, which I would love for you to consider buying from. I am an affiliate of Dr. Morse's Herbs. As you know, I love them. Actually, if you're looking at the video, I have the big one behind me. I have the whole heal tea here, which is amazing for everything. I have the tinctures and the capsules that I take. I suggest them to all my clients only because I use them myself and they're brilliant. My affiliate account is in the US, not in Europe. But if you're in Europe, I can suggest where to buy the herbs. However, you won't get a discount. I don't have one here, but I do have one in the US. So I linked everything in the show notes. Also, if you are thinking about implementing more juices and smoothies into your life, the Nama 2, J2 or C2 are amazing. So Nama came out with a juicer first, the C1, then the C2, which is what I have, and it's brilliant for batch juicing. And now they have the C2. They had the J2. The C2 now is a blender and a mixer, a blender and a juicer, so you can make smoothies and soups and creams and everything in between. And so if you want to buy it, I've left a link with the discount code. I am not an affiliate, so I don't get kickbacks for this, but I really wanted to share with you because I use it and it's wonderful. I batch juice for a week ahead and they don't go off. You need to jar them properly. You need to jar them till the top, close properly so that they don't oxidize. And when I do that, it's perfect. They last forever. So very, very good investment if you want something in your kitchen that is going to allow you to be healthier. Also, I have an affiliate account to Wunda Workshop, herbs, tinctures, and teas and turmeric products, which are beautiful. They also have an amazing CBD oil, which has turmeric in it, so double anti-inflammatory, and really works well, and it calms your nervous system and helps with inflammation. It's brilliant. And also New Zest. So I use a lot and promote a lot the Go Green Vitality because that mixture is high in protein, but it's not a protein powder per se. It's like a food supplement from food. It has everything in it. It's amazing. It's good for your skin, it's good for your hair, it's good for muscle. They also have protein powders which don't have any sugars in them, so they're very good, very natural. And I love the story. They were created by the founder whose daughter has MS, and this is changing her life by going plant-based and adding in some supplementation like protein powders that are natural and plant-based. Help her still now. And I quite honestly really like their blends. I don't feel heavy. I actually don't even feel like I had the protein powders after. And generally speaking, when I have protein powders, even if they're vegan, sometimes I don't feel as great. Nothing bad that I can report, but just something when I use different brands, sometimes I feel it, and I think it's because of the sweeteners they put in there. This one doesn't have, so I'm like, oh, cool. Maybe it's a stevia, I'm not sure, but there's also no aftertaste, which is great. So if you want to use their, the code is in the show notes as well. Yeah, so if you want to just support and if you want to work with me, I've left all the links there too. And guys, I can't wait to see you soon. Bye.